If you're stuck feeling like your peace, maybe your happiness, is constantly just, at the mercy of external events, or if you often find yourself feeling trapped, maybe by your own fears or those unchecked desires, then this deep dive is absolutely for you.
Yeah.
We're going to try and help you discover a really profound inner freedom. It's a kind of independence that, well, absolutely no one and no circumstance can ever really take away from you. Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're embarking on quite an exploration. It's a question that's intrigued thinkers for literally millennia. We're talking ancient philosophers right through to modern psychologists. The question is, what does it truly mean to be free?
Sounds so simple, doesn't it?
It does, but when we first hear that word freedom, our minds usually jump straight to external things, don't they? We think, okay, political liberty, civil rights, not being physically restrained, or, living somewhere without oppression.
The obvious stuff.
Exactly. And look, those external freedoms are, without question, incredibly important. They're the foundation of a just society, essential for human flourishing. But is that it? Is that the whole picture? Is freedom just about what's happening outside of us?
And that right there is where this deep dive gets really fascinating.
Hmm.
Because while external liberty is, like you said, undeniably crucial for our society, for individual opportunity, history, and philosophy, they consistently point us towards something much deeper, something more personal.
Okay.
And ultimately, I think, a more resilient understanding of freedom. The real meaning of independence, and the ancient Stoics were brilliant on this, and modern psychology is increasingly backing it up. It's actually an inner condition.
An inner condition.
Yes, it's a state of mind, fundamentally. A state of character that ideally remains unshackled, remains vibrant no matter what external circumstances you find yourself in. This is the kind of freedom that, tyrants or economic crashes or even really painful personal tragedies, they just can't extinguish it.
Because it's inside you.
Exactly. It's a freedom that lies within your own response, your own interpretation.
Okay, so our mission today, then, is to really dig into this, to explore this vital distinction between, let's call it, external societal freedom and this deeper inner independence. We're going to lean heavily on the timeless wisdom of the ancient Stoics. People like Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, they really pioneered these ideas.
Expansive thought, really.
Absolutely. But we won't just stay in the ancient world. We'll also bridge that wisdom right into the present day, looking at insights from contemporary psychology. We'll show how modern science is actually providing some powerful validation for these age-old truths.
It's a fascinating convergence.
Yeah, it really is. And by the end of this deep dive, the goal isn't just for you to understand the concept intellectually. We want you to walk away with practical, actionable strategies, things you can actually use to cultivate this profound inner freedom in your own life, a freedom that truly no circumstance can touch. Hashtag unpacking freedom, external versus internal independence. All right, so to really get this, to truly grasp the distinction, we probably need to first clearly define what we mean by these two, pretty different types of freedom. Let's start with the one most of us think of first. External freedom.
It's a default setting almost.
Yeah, exactly. This is freedom in the social, the political sense. It means living without, undue coercion. It means having basic civil rights, the autonomy to make choices about your own life, your career, where you live. And crucially, it means not being unjustly locked up or physically held back.
Freedom from things.
Precisely. Freedom from external constraints, whether they're imposed by other people or by oppressive systems. When we talk about free societies or free markets, freedom of speech, we're talking about external freedom. And again, it's incredibly important. It lets people and societies thrive.
But then we bring in internal freedom. And this is where the conversation shifts, I think, and becomes deeply personal, potentially transformative. This is what we mean by psychological freedom.
Okay.
And this type, it doesn't depend on your passport or your zip code or your bank balance. It hinges entirely on your ability, your choice to manage your attitude, your interpretations, and your actions, regardless of what's swirling around you externally.
So it's about self-control.
It's the ultimate form of self-governance, really.
Right.
The capacity to master your impulses, to consciously frame how you see things, how you interpret events, and to make deliberate choices based on what you value, what you find meaningful or right. And here's the kicker. You can do this even when your external freedom is severely limited, or maybe even completely gone. It's about being the author of your own inner life, you see, not just a passenger constantly reacting to whatever happens next.
Which takes us straight into something really quite mind-bending, the paradox of freedom. Because it's entirely possible, and maybe even quite common today, to have a lot of external freedom,
Mm.
live in a democracy, have opportunities, physical liberty,
Mm.
but still be profoundly lacking in internal freedom. Think about someone living in a perfectly free society on paper. Every outward liberty, travel anywhere, say anything, pursue
Oh, yeah.
any job.
Got it all, seemingly.
Seems like it, but inwardly, they could be completely enslaved. Maybe they're trapped by addiction to substances, social media validation, consumerism, whatever, that constant dopamine chase.
Yeah, we see that a lot.
Or maybe they're just paralyzed by fear. Fear of failing, fear of what others think, fear of missing out. FOMO, right. Or perhaps they're consumed by this desperate need for approval, always performing, always warning about external validation. Their body can walk freely down the street, but their mind, it's stuck in a cage, a prison they've built themselves from unchecked impulses, anxieties, desires.
All the external liberty in the world.
But internally, they're in bondage.
And the flip side of that paradox is perhaps even more powerful and definitely more inspiring. History is just full of examples, isn't it? Individuals with very little external liberty, sometimes none at all, who somehow manage to achieve and embody this profound inner freedom.
Like who?
Well, think of someone unjustly imprisoned, or maybe living under a really brutal, oppressive regime. People who, through an extraordinary effort, cultivated resilience, virtue, mastery over their own minds. They maintained their dignity, their sense of purpose, their inner peace. They couldn't choose their cell or their guards or the regime,
Right.
but they could absolutely choose how they responded to it all. And modern psychologists, they consistently highlight this. True personal freedom, it's fundamentally an internal game. It doesn't just land in your lap, you cultivate it. It takes real self-awareness, consciously taking responsibility, and the courage to make deliberate choices.
Active, not passive.
Totally active. Without that self-awareness, it's easy to live under this illusion of freedom. You think you're free because nobody's locking you up physically, but psychologically. You're still constrained by deep conditioning, automatic reactions, the weight of public opinion. You're just reacting to life, not truly living it with intention.
Okay, so let's boil this down for everyone listening. What's the crucial takeaway here? The core insight we really want to land, it seems to be that real independence, that lasting peace, genuine fulfillment, it all starts inside, in your mind.
Absolutely. It's your inherent ability to choose your mindset, to direct your thoughts, to decide on your actions, regardless of what the world throws at you.
And this inner choice making, this conscious use of your will, that's the foundation for both feeling good inside and actually doing good in the world.
Precisely. It forms the absolute bedrock for both personal fulfillment, that deep, unshakable sense of peace and purpose, and for taking effective, meaningful action out there. You simply can't make a lasting impact or find genuine contentment that isn't fragile if you're constantly being knocked around and controlled by every external breeze, every passing emotion, or every societal pressure.
Yeah, you'd be unstable.
Exactly. True inner freedom gives you that stability, that internal anchor to navigate life on your own terms. #tag Ancient Wisdom Stoicism's radical view of inner freedom.
Now, this whole idea of inner freedom, it feels very relevant today, especially with psychology backing it up. But as you mentioned, it's certainly not a new concept, is it?
Not at all. Ancient, in fact.
The classical Stoic philosophers back in ancient Greece and Rome, they were perhaps the earliest and definitely among the strongest voices championing this, well, pretty radical idea that true freedom starts from within.
It was revolutionary for its time.
You think about figures like Epictetus, who literally started life as a slave, or Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor running the whole Roman Empire, or Seneca, the influential statesman and writer. These weren't just armchair philosophers.
No, they were deeply engaged with the world.
And they all taught consistently that real freedom isn't about your social rank or how much money you have, or even if you're politically free. It's determined fundamentally by your inner character, your personal virtues, and the attitude you choose to take towards life.
And Epictetus, precisely because he knew the sharp end of lacking external freedom, having been enslaved. He offered this incredibly radical, compelling definition of a truly free person. He said a free person is one who lives as he wishes and cannot be coerced, impeded, or compelled.
Cannot be coerced, impeded, or compelled.
Yes. And the crucial part of that definition is about whose impulses and desires are entirely under their own control. Epictetus hammered this home. This freedom wasn't about social or political liberty, not primarily. It was, and it is, a psychological freedom. It depends solely on your mindset, not your external situation.
That's a huge shift in thinking.
It is. And consider his famous paradox. Epictetus argued that a slave who has mastered their own mind, their own desires, could actually be profoundly freer than a king who's enslaved by his own passions, his need for approval, his addiction to power, his fear of losing it all.
How so?
Because the slave's peace isn't dependent on external things they can't control, they become, in a sense, immune to coercion in that inner realm. Whereas the king, paradoxically, is constantly being pushed and pulled, dictated to by his own internal desires and anxieties. So the deep insight is that freedom, at its core, is the absence of internal enslavement, being free from being ruled by externals or by your own unruly passions. Sometimes it's about being free from yourself when yourself isn't aligned with reason.
Wow. That really turns our usual understanding upside down. So if it's not literal chains or prison walls that are the main problem, what does enslave us, according to the Stoics?
Our crude chains, they argued, are internal. They are our own unchecked passions, our runaway desires, and crucially, our false judgments about what's truly good or bad for us.
False judgments, like thinking money will make us happy.
Exactly. Or fame, or pleasure, or power. Epictetus warned very vividly that the more we relentlessly chase these external satisfactions, the more we get trapped in this endless cycle of dependence on them. We effectively hand over our freedom, we give it away to external forces, and we become slaves to those very desires we're chasing.
So chasing desires makes us less free.
That's the core of it, which leads to that incredibly powerful, almost shocking statement from Epictetus. Freedom is not achieved by satisfying desire, but by eliminating it.
Eliminating desire. That sounds hard, maybe impossible.
Well, perhaps not eliminating all desire, but certainly eliminating or radically managing desires for things outside our control. Think about it. If you cultivate the wisdom to only truly desire what is within your control, your own thoughts, your character, your responses, your efforts, then what can anyone or anything do to you, really? No one, no event, no circumstance can truly force you or compel you or steal your inner peace. Because your peace isn't tied to those external things anymore. You become, essentially, unshakable. The key insight, your inner peace, is directly proportional to your independence from things you don't control.
Okay, unshakable peace. That sounds good. How do we get there?
This leads us straight to maybe the most fundamental practical tool the Stoics gave us for cultivating inner freedom, the dichotomy of control.
The dichotomy of control, okay.
It's remarkably simple on the surface, but profoundly transformative when you really live it. The idea is, some things in life are genuinely up to us, and, crucially, a whole lot of other things are simply not.
Right. Makes sense. So what is up to us?
Our own thoughts, our values, our judgments about things, our efforts, our attitudes, our responses to events, the choices we make moment to moment.
Our inner world, basically.
Exactly. And what's definitively not up to us, well, almost everything else. Other people's actions and opinions, the weather, the past, the ultimate outcome of most events, even with our best efforts, our physical health beyond reasonable care, whether people praise us or criticize us, how long we live. The list is long.
Okay. So know the difference. Then what?
Then, the path to inner freedom, the Stoics taught with absolute conviction, comes from focusing all your energy, all your concern, all your effort, only on what is within your sphere of control. And then, and this is the hard part sometimes learning to accept, with profound calm and detachment, everything that falls outside that sphere. Let go of your emotional attachment to outcomes you don't fully control.
What?
Seneca, another great Stoic, put it perfectly. Freedom is the prize we are seeking. And he meant freedom from being a slave to anything, whether it's our own internal compulsions, addictions, or just the random chance events life throws at us. Fortune, they called it.
So practically, it's about reducing fortune's power over us.
Precisely. By mastering ourselves, by recognizing the limits of our influence. The deep insight here is that understanding this dichotomy gives you immense power back, the power to choose your response, no matter what.
Marcus Aurelius, the emperor, he must have felt the weight of things outside his control constantly.
Oh, absolutely. Ruling the Roman Empire. Imagine the pressures, the uncertainties.
And yet, in his personal journal, the Meditations, which amazingly he never meant for anyone else to read, he's constantly reminding himself that clinging too tightly to external things, even things like his immense wealth, his status as emperor, maybe even his physical liberty, actually undermined his true freedom.
It's counterintuitive, isn't it?
It really is. He wrote, and this sounds like him talking to himself, "If you cannot stop prizing a lot of other things, then you'll never be free, independent, imperturbable."
Wow.
His point was crystal clear. The fear of losing these externals Wealth, status, health, reputation, that fear inevitably leads to anxiety, vulnerability, a feeling of being constrained. If your happiness, your peace, your very sense of self depends on something someone else can give you or take away, or something chance can destroy, then you are inherently vulnerable. You're not truly free.
So what was his solution?
For Marcus, true independence meant resolutely placing his happiness, his sense of well-being, squarely in his inner virtues, in his character, in doing the right thing, acting rationally, regardless of the outcome, not in anything external that others could grant or strip away. He famously observed, and this is so relevant, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment.
The power is in the judgment.
Exactly. That's the liberating truth. No external event, no matter how difficult, can force us to feel or act against our will unless we basically give it permission, unless we surrender our own thinking, our own judgment, our inner consent to it. The freedom is always in your interpretation.
And the really beautiful thing about the Stoics is, as you said, they didn't just theorize. They lived this stuff, often under incredible pressure. Look at Epictetus again. Physically disabled, started as a slave, conditions totally beyond his control. Yet he consistently maintained that his mind remained completely free.
He practiced what he preached.
He absolutely did. He cultivated that inner autonomy and became one of the most respected and influential philosophy teachers of his time, drawing students from everywhere. Even emperors sought his counsel. There's a great commentary that says, freedom can be found in working within our limits or constraints and letting them teach us what we are capable of. He found liberation and purpose by understanding and operating entirely within his sphere of control, however limited it might have seemed from the outside. And think about Socrates, often seen as a forerunner to Stoicism. Unjustly condemned, imprisoned, facing death, he met his end with such calm, such philosophical integrity. He proved his spirit was independent, unyielding, even as his jailers held his body captive.
His mind was free.
Completely. As the modern Stoic writer Santoro Gonzalez puts it so well, we can be physically free, sitting in the comfort of our homes, and be psychologically imprisoned. In turn, freedom is a mindset we can cultivate and a way of living. And that just nails it, doesn't it? Freedom ultimately is a state of mind. It's a way of living in harmony with your principles, with reason, making you immune or at least highly resilient to the unpredictable ups and downs, the fortune of external life. #tag modern psychologies echoes scientific validation of inner freedom. What I find truly fascinating and maybe even reassuring is how much contemporary psychology and even neuroscience are echoing these ancient Stoic ideas about inner freedom. It's almost uncanny sometimes.
Like science catching up with ancient wisdom.
Kind of. It's as if modern research methods with empirical data and studies are providing powerful validation for what these philosophers figured out millennia ago through deep introspection, logic, and just lived experience. The principles they intuited are now being systematically confirmed.
That convergence is remarkable, isn't it? Like, take self-determination theory. Hugely influential, developed by psychologists Richard Ryan and Edward Deci. They identified autonomy, that feeling that your actions are self-chosen, authentic, aligned with your true self as one of 3 basic human psychological needs, right alongside competence and relatedness.
Fundamental needs.
Exactly. And while self-determination used to mean, nations getting independence, Ryan and Deci point out it now also means an individual's deep personal ability to make their own choices, to control their own life's direction. Essentially, personal autonomy is psychological freedom.
And their research backs this up.
Big time. Their extensive research consistently shows that when people feel a strong sense of autonomy, when they operate from an internal locus of control, believing they can influence their destiny through their efforts, they report greater motivation, higher well-being, more fulfillment.
And the opposite.
The opposite also holds true. People who feel constantly controlled by external forces, or by others, an external locus of control, they tend to be less resilient, less proactive, and report being less happy and independent. It lines up perfectly, almost spookily well, with the Stoic idea of focusing your energy on what you actually control, your inner world.
And maybe an even more direct link, a powerful bridge, is in cognitive psychology and emotional self-regulation. Epictetus, centuries before CBT was even a glimmer in anyone's eye, basically nailed the core insight. Our thoughts shape our feelings and reactions.
That famous quote again?
It is not things themselves that disturb us, but the views we take of them. That single maxim, it's the absolute cornerstone, the guiding principle of modern cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT.
Right. CBT is all about changing thought patterns.
Precisely. In CBT, clients learn specific techniques to actively reframe or reappraise their interpretation of events. Why? To manage their emotional reactions more effectively. And this deliberate act of changing your perspective, it isn't just a coping trick. It's a profound exercise in cognitive freedom.
Freedom from knee-jerk reactions.
Exactly. Freedom from those automatic, often distressing emotional responses that can just sweep you away. And modern research strongly supports this. Cognitive reappraisal, rethinking the meaning or context of something that happens, is scientifically shown to be a protective strategy against stress and adversity. It significantly boosts emotional resilience.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Say you suddenly lose your job. That's the external event. You have the freedom to choose your interpretation. You could see it as a catastrophe, feel hopeless, spiral down. Or you could consciously choose to frame it as an opportunity, an unexpected pivot point, a chance to learn something new, start a different path, pursue something you've always wanted to do.
Same event, different interpretation.
Exactly the same external event. Your freedom lies entirely in choosing your interpretation and therefore your response.
And it's not just about interpreting external stuff, right? It's also about managing the emotions themselves. Emotional self-regulation.
Absolutely foundational to inner freedom. Think about it. Someone who's constantly blowing up in anger, or paralyzed by irrational fear, or eaten up by envy, they aren't truly free, are they?
No, they seem controlled by the emotion.
In a very real sense, they're under the command, the tyranny of those intense emotions. The Stoics had a word for freedom from this, apatheia. Now, it's curious, this didn't mean apathy, like not caring. It meant inner equilibrium, a state where you're free from being constantly tossed around by intense, unruly, irrational passions.
It's emotional stability.
Exactly. And modern neuroscience and psychology find similar things. Practices like mindfulness meditation, for instance, which systematically train you to become more aware of your thoughts and feelings as they arise without judgment. These practices demonstrably improve emotional regulation. They give people a greater, more conscious sense of control over their inner life.
How does that work?
Well, when you can observe an emotion, rising anger, anxiety, sadness, whatever, without immediately getting swept away by it, when you can create that little space between the stimulus and your response, that's a profoundly liberating act of inner freedom. You see the wave coming, but you don't have to be drowned by it. You can choose how to surf it, so to speak. And if we zoom out even further, look at existential psychology. There, personal freedom is seen as fundamentally, undeniably tied to self-awareness. The psychologist Sebastian Salacru puts it really clearly. There cannot be freedom without self-awareness. To be free means to have choices. The only way to have choices is to become self-aware.
Wow, no self-awareness, no real choice.
That's the idea. Think about it. By becoming more aware of our conditioned patterns, those automatic ways of thinking, feeling, behaving that we picked up unconsciously from family, culture, past experiences, and by uncovering our hidden fears and limiting beliefs, we dramatically expand the territory of our conscious choice.
We see the invisible strings pulling us.
Precisely. And seeing them gives us the chance to cut them, or at least choose differently. Salacru says real freedom involves breaking free from that social and psychological conditioning. It means taking real, authentic responsibility for consciously choosing our own values, beliefs, decisions. And again, you hear the Stoic echo loud and clear. Inner freedom grows as we gain self-insight, as we understand our own internal wiring, and as we take active responsibility for managing our own minds. Hashtag inner freedom in action. Powerful real-world examples.
Okay, these ideas, both ancient and modern, are really compelling. But abstract philosophies, psychological theories, they really hit home when we see them in action, don't they? When we look at real people who live this stuff.
Absolutely. The case studies make it concrete.
And thankfully, history gives us some incredible examples. Individuals who, facing the absolute worst kinds of external constraints, somehow manage to hold on to and even strengthen their inner independence. These stories aren't just history, they're like blueprints for resilience.
And what's often striking is how many of these people, sometimes without even knowing the word Stoicism, embodied its core principles under the most horrific conditions. Take Viktor Frankl.
Man's Search for Meaning. Right, incredible book.
Incredible book. Incredible man. An Austrian psychiatrist who survived multiple Nazi concentration camps, including Auschwitz. His experience, which he details so powerfully, is one of the most profound testaments to inner freedom ever written.
What was his core insight?
He observed, even in that hell where literally everything could be taken away, comfort, family, identity, hope itself, one thing always remained. He called it the last of the human freedoms to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way.
The freedom to choose your attitude.
even when facing starvation, torture, constant death threats. Frankl realized he still had control over his mind. He could choose to find meaning. He found it in imagining lecturing after the war, in helping other prisoners, in noticing a beautiful sunset, even in finding meaning in the suffering itself. By consciously choosing his attitude, pursuing meaning, he kept his dignity, his sanity, his will intact.
The Nazis couldn't take that away.
They couldn't touch it.
Yeah.
He discovered an inner independence they had no power over. It's Stoicism in action. Ultimate freedom lies in your response, not your situation.
And then there's Nelson Mandela, an almost unbelievable story. 27 years in prison under South African apartheid, a staggering loss of external freedom.
Agonizingly long.
Yet he walks out, not bitter, not broken, but somehow free of hatred. It's astonishing. He famously said, and this captures it perfectly, "As I walked out the door toward the gate that would lead to my freedom, I knew if I didn't leave my bitterness and hatred behind, I'd still be in prison."
Wow. Still in prison, even when free.
Exactly. He understood with absolute clarity that clinging to anger, resentment, wanting revenge, that would keep him mentally imprisoned, even outside the physical walls. His inner world would still be chained.
So he chose forgiveness.
He chose forgiveness. He chose reconciliation, compassion, not vengeance. And in doing so, he embodied that Stoic idea. Your inner state, your internal landscape, that's what determines your freedom, not just your physical location. And then his leadership showed how that deep inner freedom could ripple outwards, transforming an entire nation. He freed himself internally, and that helped free his country.
And for someone who consciously, even intellectually, applied Stoicism under fire, you have to look at James Stockdale.
The POW in Vietnam.
That's right. U.S. Navy pilot, shot down, endured 7.5 years as a prisoner of war. Horrific torture, long stretches of solitary confinement in the Hanoi Hilton. But here's the key. Stockdale was a student of Stoicism. He'd read Epictetus before he was captured.
So we had the tools already.
He had the intellectual framework, and he credited those teachings for his survival and his incredible resilience. He grasped the Stoic truth. His captors controlled his body, his environment, inflicted immense suffering. But his will, his judgment, those remained his own.
His inner citadel.
Exactly. There's an account that says, forced to exist in a living hell. Stockdale quickly realized that the only function he still possessed total control of was his inner will. So he applied Epictetus daily, focused on maintaining honor, courage, mental clarity. He resisted demands, even deliberately injured himself once to avoid being used for enemy propaganda. These were acts of pure inner autonomy, asserting his will.
Choosing integrity over comfort or even survival sometimes.
Precisely. His story, and others like it from POWs who use similar philosophies, proves that even in physical chains, the mind can remain utterly free. That resilience came from valuing inner virtues, integrity, courage above everything else, even life itself. That's how they denied their captor's ultimate power. They could break his body, but not his spirit.
These examples, Frankl, Mandela, Stockdale, they just hammer home this universal truth, don't they? Inner freedom isn't some magical gift for a chosen few. It's a choice. And maybe more importantly, it's a skill, something anyone can cultivate.
That's the empowering part.
Whether you're facing something extreme like they did or just dealing with the everyday pressures and anxieties of modern life, we all have this capacity to claim our freedom by turning inward, by taking control of our conscience, our attitude, our response. And conversely, like we said earlier, you can live in the freest country in the world, enjoy every liberty, but still feel totally trapped. Trapped by anxiety, by consumerism, by what other people think. The fundamental difference in every case comes down to mindset.
And practice.
Daily practice.
Yeah.
As the Stoics would say, no one is free who is not master of themselves. The prize is self-mastery. #, cultivating inner freedom, practical strategies for daily life. Okay, so if freedom really does start within, if it's truly an inside job, then the big question for everyone listening has to be, how? How do we actually do this? How can we actively cultivate this inner freedom in our own lives day to day? What are the practical steps?
Right, let's get tactical. The absolute foundation, the starting point, has to be that core Stoic principle we keep coming back to. Focus on the dichotomy of control.
What's up to us, what's not up to us.
Exactly. Your strategy here is to make it a consistent daily habit. Meticulously differentiate what is genuinely within my power, my thoughts, my actions, my judgments, and what is absolutely not.
And the action step.
The action is to consciously, deliberately invest your precious energy, your attention, your effort only in those things you actually control. And then with wisdom and emotional detachment, learn to calmly accept everything else outside that sphere. Let it go.
Detach your well-being from outcomes.
Precisely. By intentionally disconnecting your well-being, your peace of mind, from external outcomes you can't fully control, you liberate yourself. You free yourself from pointless worry, from frustration, from the emotional roller coaster of attachment. Think about work. You control your effort, your diligence, your learning, how you treat colleagues.
But not the promotion or the economy or the boss's mood.
Exactly. So do your absolute best on what is yours to control, but don't chain your happiness or self-worth to that external validation or outcome. Your freedom lies in that internal detachment, that clarity about where your real power lies in your own agency.
Okay, dichotomy of control, fundamental. What's next? Building on that, it feels like that idea from CDT is crucial. Reframe your thoughts or cognitive reappraisal.
Huge.
When something difficult happens, a setback, adversity, our first thought might be really negative, right? It leads straight to feeling bad. So the strategy is to actively practice seeing it differently through a new lens.
Yes, interrupt that automatic negative interpretation.
So you ask yourself questions like, okay, wait, is there another way to look at this? A more constructive way? What can I possibly learn here, even if it sucks right now? Is this really a total disaster or maybe just inconvenient?
Those questions create space.
Right. And this ancient Stoic strategy, consciously changing your perspective, it's directly mirrored, scientifically validated by modern CBT. Shifting thoughts lowers distress, builds resilience, helps you solve problems. Even just pausing before reacting, asking, is this actually bad or can I use this somehow? Is there an opportunity hidden here? That pause is an assertion of your mind's freedom, freedom to define your experience, not just be defined by it.
Marcus Aurelius lived this.
He did. He kept telling himself, every event, no matter how tough, is an opportunity to practice virtue, to deepen understanding. So if you consistently, deliberately reframe challenges, see them as chances for growth, or just neutral events to navigate, or tests of your character, you train yourself out of those automatic negative emotional spirals, the ones that chain you to anxiety or despair.
And flowing from that to really lock in inner freedom, you absolutely must build emotional self-regulation. Remember, the goal is genuine freedom, which means not being constantly hijacked or ruled by runaway emotions, anger, fear, envy, anxiety.
So how do we build that regulation muscle?
Practices like mindfulness meditation are proven tools. Regular journaling, like Marcus Aurelius did for self-inflection, is another, or specific Stoic exercises like premeditating adversity, thinking about what might go wrong and how you'd handle it virtuously. These all help you observe your emotions as they bubble up, without instantly reacting or getting consumed.
Acknowledge the feeling, but don't let it drive the bus.
Exactly. The Stoics advised, acknowledge feelings, understand where they might be coming from, but crucially, don't let them dictate your behavior or take over your inner state. And modern research backs this up powerfully. Even the simple act of naming an emotion, mindfully saying internally, there's anger arising, instead of just, I am angry, can significantly lessen its grip.
Creates distance.
It creates distance, perspective. So when anger, fear, envy starts to rise, take a breath, label it internally, remind yourself, I am the observer, the agent here. I get to choose my response. Over time, this consistent practice strengthens your ability to respond calmly, wisely, with intention. That's a hallmark of inner freedom, responding with intention, not reacting on impulse.
Okay, so we're managing our thoughts, managing our emotions. What else is key? You mentioned self-awareness earlier. Cultivate self-awareness and responsibility. This feels foundational.
Absolutely non-negotiable. Self-awareness is the starting line for any real liberation. You need dedicated time, maybe quiet reflection, to truly understand your own core values. What really matters to you? What are your triggers? What are those ingrained thought patterns you keep falling into? Where do your true motivations lie?
Identifying the autopilot.
Yes. Identify where you're just running on autopilot, maybe conforming blindly to what society expects or what your friends think or what ads tell you to want, instead of making conscious choices from your authentic self. And then the crucial second part, take full, unflinching responsibility for your choices. Big ones, small ones, all of them.
Why is taking responsibility so freeing?
Psychologists see it consistently. The more genuine responsibility we take for our lives, our thoughts, actions, results, the more empowered and fundamentally free we feel. It shifts you from victim mode to agent mode. It might mean owning your mistakes instead of blaming circumstances or people. It might mean proactively changing something in your life that just doesn't align with who you really are or want to be.
Moving from passive to active.
Exactly. By asserting responsibility, you reclaim the freedom to direct your life's course. Try this. At the end of each day, just take 5 minutes. Reflect. What choices did I make today, big or small? How did they impact my sense of freedom, my integrity, my growth? Even tiny acts of ownership done consistently build up into a much larger sense of autonomy and inner freedom. And that connects nicely to the next strategy: manage desires and simplify. So much of our internal bondage, especially today, comes from just wanting endless stuff, endless experiences, validation, possessions. We chase more things, more status, more likes, thinking it's the path to happiness. But often it just creates more worry, more debt, more dependence, more chains.
The hedonic treadmill.
Precisely. The Stoics were masters at moderating desires. Seneca, for instance, wasn't against wealth, but he advised enjoying it when you have it, appreciate it, but also actively train yourself to be perfectly fine if it disappears tomorrow. Practice non-attachment.
How can we practice that today?
Well, you could explore practical minimalism, or try periodic conscious abstinence, maybe a digital detox for a day or a week. Or deliberately refrain from buying non-essentials for a period. These aren't punishments, they're training exercises. They powerfully remind you that your core happiness doesn't actually depend on those externals. It resides within you.
Reclaiming freedom by needing less.
Exactly. By consciously reducing your dependence on material things, or maybe in the constant approval of others, you reclaim significant personal freedom and build resilience. So before you automatically chase that next shiny object or that next hit of validation, pause. Ask yourself honestly, do I truly control this? Do I deeply need this for my well-being? Or am I about to hand over a piece of my freedom, becoming a servant to this thing? That simple reflection can stop you from becoming enslaved by consumption, by social comparison, by fleeting gratification.
That's a really practical filter. Okay, we're managing thoughts, emotions, desires, taking responsibility. What about the bigger picture? You mentioned Viktor Frankl finding meaning. So strategy 6, find meaning and purpose.
Yes, this is huge. Frankl's horrific experience showed it with stark clarity. Having a strong why, a deep sense of meaning or purpose, acts like an anchor. It fortifies your inner freedom against almost anything the world throws at you, even immense suffering.
So how do we find that why?
The strategy is to actively clarify your core values. What principles do you want to live by? What kind of impact do you want to have? What truly makes your life feel meaningful to you? What causes resonate? What contributions feel important? When you consciously orient your actions, your energy, your whole being toward a purpose you deeply believe in, external hardships just become more bearable. They become less defining.
You're guided from within.
Exactly. You remain internally directed, following your own compass, rather than being tossed around by every external wind circumstance, public opinion, fleeting emotions. Purpose acts like that unwavering internal guide that you freely choose to follow. It can steer you through chaos and uncertainty. So take some time. Write down your guiding principles, your core life goals. Then, in moments of doubt or pressure or emotional turmoil, come back to them. They provide that deep inner strength to act out of freedom, out of conviction, not out of fear or compulsion. And finally, maybe one of the hardest, but ultimately most freeing. Strategy number 7 is to practice forgiveness and letting go.
Mandela's lesson.
Mandela's profound lesson. Holding on to hatred, resentment, bitterness. It's its own horrible prison, and you're the one holding the key, locking yourself in. To truly cultivate and sustain inner freedom, you had to actively practice forgiving past wrongs. And let's be clear, this isn't primarily for the other person's benefit. It's not about excusing injustice. It's about profoundly liberating yourself from being chained to that past pain.
Letting go frees you.
It frees you. Letting go of grudges when you're ready, when it feels right, it frees up enormous mental and emotional energy that was previously just burning away in resentment and anger. Doesn't mean forgetting or condoning. It means refusing to let that past injustice colonize your spirit and dictate your present and future.
How do you actually do that? Forgiveness is hard.
It is hard. Methods can vary. Journaling about the hurt and making a conscious decision to release your emotional attachment to it can work. Deliberately practicing empathy, trying to understand the flawed humanity of the person who wronged you without excusing their actions, can also help dissolve bitterness over time. Forgiveness in this sense is tremendously freeing, and it aligns perfectly with the Stoic advice to accept and move on from things not in your control, which definitely includes other people's past actions and their consequences. By relinquishing that bitterness, that need for payback, you make space. Space for peace, for constructive emotions, for moving forward as the author of your own story, not just a character stuck reacting to someone else's past actions.
Wow. Okay. Dichotomy of control, reframing thoughts, emotional regulation, self-awareness and responsibility, managing desires, finding purpose and forgiveness. That's quite a toolkit.
It is, and each one, when you practice it consistently with real intention, helps build and strengthen that muscle of inner freedom.
Like going to the gym for your mind.
Exactly like that. It requires consistency, patience, showing up even when it's tough. The Stoics constantly compared philosophy to training, rehearsing scenarios, reflecting daily, committing to gradual progress. And modern psychology confirms it. Qualities like self-control, resilience, emotion regulation, optimism. These aren't fixed traits. They can be systematically strengthened over time with deliberate, mindful practice.
And the reward.
The reward is profound, immeasurable, really. A mind that becomes calm, adaptive, resilient, genuinely free no matter the circumstance. A mind that's independent of the whims of fate. Hashtag tag, 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 outro.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's just circle back to that core message, the one that's echoed through centuries. Freedom starts within. This isn't just some nice-sounding phrase, is it? It feels like a deep, enduring truth. We've seen it witnessed by philosophers, validated by psychologists and neuroscientists, and powerfully lived out by survivors of history's toughest trials.
It holds up under scrutiny, ancient and modern.
And while external freedom, living in a free society, having rights, opportunities, that's incredibly valuable, we should always fight to protect and expand it for everyone. But on its own, it doesn't guarantee happiness or peace or authenticity, does it?
No, it doesn't. The true, unshakable meaning of independence, it really lies in that inner freedom, the ability to govern your own mind, to consciously choose your response to whatever life throws at you, to fate itself, to live consistently with your deepest values and with reason. Stoic philosophy gives us this timeless, practical framework for getting there.
Focus on what's yours.
Focus relentlessly on what is unequivocally and eternally yours, your choices, your attitudes, your character, and resolutely refuse to let external circumstances or your own untamed desires enslave you. And modern psychology powerfully reinforces this, showing that autonomy, cognitive reframing, emotional regulation, self-awareness. These aren't optional extras. They are fundamental pillars of mental well-being and real human agency.
And as we think about this, let's remember those incredible role models we talked about. People like Viktor Frankl, Nelson Mandela, James Stockdale. Their lives are just powerful living proof. Proof that the human spirit can remain unconquered, profoundly free, even when the body is imprisoned, tortured, suffering unimaginably. They remind us that our inner world is our ultimate sanctuary, our ultimate realm of freedom.
So maybe the invitation for everyone listening as you go back into your day is to reflect on your own life.
Yeah.
Honestly ask yourself, in what ways might I, maybe unknowingly, be allowing external situations or societal pressures, or maybe my own unchecked emotions and desires, to shackle me? Where am I giving my power away? And then, armed with some of these ideas, these strategies, how might you start, maybe today, maybe just in one small way, to consciously unlock those shackles through that dedicated inner work? The journey to freedom, the Stoics remind us again and again, it really is an inside job. It's a path available to every single one of us. By embracing this wisdom, both ancient and modern, and applying it daily, consistently, patiently, we can all move closer to that profound independence that comes only from within. As Seneca wrote, freedom is the prize we are seeking, and it's right here, right now, potentially available to each of us in the dominion of our own mind. True independence isn't just a political status handed to you. It's a personal achievement, a constant cultivation.
Something you build.
Something you build step by step, thought by thought, virtue by virtue. No external force can just grant it to you, and crucially, none can take it away without your inner consent. When you secure this inner freedom, you carry it everywhere. It radiates strength, peace, integrity in everything you do.